Hi, Kristen, and today is my first weight loss quilt update video. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put a card up here and a link in the description to the first video, which I did a few weeks back, which was how to make a weight loss quilt. So that'll explain what this is all about. But basically, it's a 6-month weight loss health kick that I'm going on. And I'm using a quilt as a habit tracker. So each block pertains to whether or not I ate healthy and how much I exercised, and there's a block a day, and there's some other bits to it. And there's a whole starter kit on my blog. I'll link to it in the description. You can get it for free, and you can start anytime, whether you're seeing this as I post it or 6 months ago next year or whatever. You can start it whenever you want. But I'm doing it right now. So it's been 1 month since I started it. I think I did the first video like a week after I started the quilt or something like that. So the highlights are that I've lost 12 pounds, which is really encouraging. Now I know I'm not going to lose 12 pounds every month. I know when you start like a new health kick, you lose like water weight or whatever. And I was really, really in an unhealthy place before. So it's kind of a drastic change, I guess. So don't be discouraged if you're doing this along with me and you didn't lose 12 pounds. It's a bit bizarre. But anyways, I'm being encouraged by that to keep going. And I've got some more updates and some more thoughts on all of that. But I've now got a full 2 rows, so 14 blocks per row for the size I'm doing. And I'm going to join them. So rather than wait to the end to join all the rows, I like to kind of do little bits as I'm going on. So I'm going to show you how I join the rows, but I've got timestamps below. So if you're like, I don't need that. I know how to join rows. And you just want to hear more about how I've been getting on with the quilt and what it's looking like now, you can jump ahead. Okay, so these are the 2 rows that I've finished so far. So obviously I do have some extra squares for the week that's just been that don't quite add up to a row. But anyways, I'm going to join these. As you might be able to see from here, I'm not sure if you can. Basically, I'm not precious with my 5-inch squares. So some of them I've cut myself, and they're probably all pretty much the same size because I use a fabric cutter for that. But some of them are charm pack squares, and I do not cut off the pinked edges and things like that. So some of them look smaller. I don't really use starch, so they look kind of stretched in places. So I'm going to show you how I join these so that you can't tell. So it's like the kind of cheats method if you end up with something that looks a bit wonky. So we're going to make sure that the corners meet as best they can. And I think it's going to look fine. So I'm going to show you that, and then I will kind of talk about some of the differences in the quilt blocks and which is kind of a diary of how I'm getting on. Yeah. So I'll do that just after I've shown you how I'm joining these together. So I've got my first 2 rows. So this is the first row on the top, right sides down on top of the second row. And I have chosen to open my seams. So I've pressed my seams open because I find it easier to join the seams that way myself. But lots of people swear by nesting them, which is you would put all of these in one direction for one row and in the other direction for the next row, and you'd nest them. So you can go ahead and try whichever way you want. I'm not saying this is the way to do it. This is just the way that I do it. So the other thing that I'm doing is, rather than go and pin the whole thing all the way down, is I am going to pin, can you see that? Yeah, I'm going to pin, not even pin, I'm using a clip just to hold those 2 seams together. And then I'll show you, I'll do it. But I'm going to sew all the way down here, and see I was talking about the 2 different sizes of squares. So I've got one that's got a pinked edge underneath and one that doesn't here that I cut. So I am going to sew, assuming the smaller one is the size. So there'll just be a little bit extra in the seam allowance for the pinked one. And so then when I've sewn through here where that's joined, then I'll have removed that clip, and then I'll stop, pin this one, and keep going, so that if you have an issue where you need to stretch a square, or one's so big that you get a little pucker or something, which if it's tiny, no one's going to notice, it'll be contained within that square because we're kind of going from seam to seam, if you get what I mean. So that's how I do it. It's a little slower than just sewing all the way through the rows, but there's nothing more annoying than sewing through the whole row and finding that all of the seams are a bit skew-whiff and shifted off a bit. So anyway, that's how I'm going to do this. So I need a leader, which I never used to need on my old machine, but this one just chews away at the first stitches all the time, even though it's super fancy. It's a Bernina super fancy machine, but it's so finicky. Anyway, so I need a leader to start mine. Right. Okay, and then when I get to the point where I need to remove the clip to sew, I just kind of keep my finger on it to stop it shifting until I get there. Right, and then I'm going to pin the next one, clip the next, I keep saying pin, but it's the same difference, you could pin it. And I'm just going to shift and make sure those two are matching. And tuck this guy from underneath to make sure these ones are lined up. Okay, and then I'm going to take that guy away. And I'm in the seam, and then I'm going to do the next one. So underneath here, I've got my stretchy denim. So same thing. I'm going to make sure those two, I'm not sure if you can see that on the camera, those two are lined up, and pin. Clip. And I'm just going to do the same all the way along, so I will speed this up so you do not get bored. But basically that's how I cheat squares that are cut not perfect and all of that stuff. So I'm sure you could be more of a perfectionist about it than me, but that's how I'm going to do it. See, they're mostly lining up pretty well. I did have a few spots. Where did I find one? Where it's not 100%. So, can you see that? Obviously, you can unpick that if you want, but then it kind of goes back to being good in different places. So I'm leaving it, frankly. Yes, I could be cutting my squares more accurately, but this is good enough for me. So you decide your level of perfectionism with this as well. Okay, so now I have the first two rows sewn together, and there's some interesting patterns that I wasn't expecting. If you've seen my kind of mock-up of what I expected to look like, I didn't expect there to be like the oranges together, or like the unhealthy eating day and then the weigh-in day, and then over here we've got the weigh-in day and then the unhealthy day on the following row. I've staggered it because it's kind of what I'm doing is sort of 7 blocks for a week plus the extra block for the weigh-in, so that's like 8 blocks a week essentially, and the row is 14 wide, and that was so that I didn't end up with like a whole row of these pink ones down one side or whatever, right? So and to give it some interest, but I'm still ending up with sort of these strange patterns where the dark ones are coming together, which is interesting. Anyway, so I kind of started off slow with the exercise and then kind of got into a groove, and I've been letting myself, as I say, have some sort of unhealthy cheat days in terms of food, because otherwise I'd go mad. And then here, where I am now, so I've got one to do where I think I had like a 15-minute exercise day here, and then I've gotten back into the exercise here. So I've got 3 or 4 blocks with either yellow or not yellow, orange or pink circles in them. But this here is the kind of stuff where having the whole quilt to look forward to is helping keep me motivated. So this week here, where there's like unhealthy, no exercise, healthy, no exercise, and then it's going to be the one that's missing in the middle there is healthy with just 15 minutes of exercise, is basically a week where my youngest son has been unwell. So he's had like a fever, and he's just been next to me and just wants to cuddle all the time. So I'm not obviously getting up and exercising and stuff, but I still lost weight that week. And so I just keep going. So if you saw how this continued after, I haven't made them yet, there's 3 or 4 more blocks that look more like the ones at the end of the first and second row there. So it's kind of, yeah, it's helping me to put perspective on, you just have to get back up and keep going. So the things I'm really liking about doing the quilt is it, I mean, one, obviously it's easy, but also it's giving me that perspective that I think I need, especially at the beginning of kind of like a healthy eating, exercising kind of journey, that if I have a day or two that are a bit off, that's just like, yeah, it's like literally just adding a bit of color to the quilt, and you just keep going. I probably, especially in recent years, have been guilty of like, I'll start something for a week and then I have an off day, and then I kind of go, oh, what's the point now? I've, ruined it or whatever, which I know from the past when I've done a proper health kick and actually lost weight, it's, a day here or there, a cheat day or whatever, you need those. That doesn't deter your success. You kind of need that to keep you mentally going, kind of, or a rest day or whatever you want to call it, right? But just knowing that, I've got, the aim is to make this whole quilt, it kind of helps to go, well, this is a long game. It's not, so it doesn't matter that there's 1 or 2 days or even a week if something didn't go well, because I've still got all these other blocks to make, rows to make the quilt, if you see what I mean. Anyways, I'm just finding that comforting, that it's like, this is a longer thing that I'm doing. And I'm also really encouraged to see so many of you joining in, and the messages and people telling me how you're doing. And there's a few sort of tips that I wanted to give you based on some of those comments, actually. So a couple of ideas from subscribers and folk commenting on the first video. You can do this however you want. So I've the starter pack has got the key that's got how you can, assign a color to whether you're eating healthy or you're exercising or whatever. But you could also use that key for a totally different, like if you don't need to lose weight, but you want to do track some other kind of habit or some other kind of thing you're trying to change. You can use that. You can use different colors to what I'm using. I'm using some kind of far out colors for this. But there's also folk who've been really creative with how they're going to do it. So Nola is a subscriber who leaves lots of helpful comments actually on lots of videos. And on that one, so she's decided, because she doesn't want to do the applique, she's going to do like corner triangles, which I thought was a really cute idea. I think it's going to look great. So if you just want to follow along with the concept and do it, because there's a bunch of us doing this now, and you want the camaraderie of that, then you don't have to do it exactly how I'm doing it. So just join in. Don't let applique be an excuse for not doing it. You don't have to do that. And I will have another project, like probably in the new year, that's gonna try and make applique seem a bit easier and not so stressful. But don't worry about that. Basically, you don't have to do that. If you don't want to do it, just do it. Just pick a different kind of block and just follow along differently. So the accountability is a big bit of it. I've got you guys. I kind of tell you what I'm doing, and people are asking me in the comments, and that's so helpful for me personally. But I like to be able to offer that to you guys. So you can obviously tag me any kind of social media. You can leave a comment on here. If you're on my email list, you can reply to my emails and let me know, how you're getting on with it. If you just need to like tell somebody how many squares you made and get it well done, I'm happy to do that. I'm not sure. I haven't like taken a head count of how many of us there are doing this. So I don't know if anybody likes the idea of doing like a Facebook group or not. I know everybody's in lots of Facebook groups. You might be like, absolutely no way. but if I got a lot of people saying that they would like that, so they can like chat to each other as well, I'm happy to set that up. So let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll ask. I might say, so if you've already downloaded the starter pack, I might email and ask you if that's something you want to do as well. So my question to you guys is how often you would want to see updates. So I guess in my head, I was thinking once a month would be good. But if you're feeling like you want like more frequent, shorter updates to keep you motivated, let me know. I'm happy to oblige. It's not that difficult to sit down and just tell you how I'm doing. So I'm happy to do it more often, but I don't want to bore people either. So just let me know how often you might want to hear about how this is going. But if I don't get comments or nobody says anything different, I'm planning on doing something like a monthly update video. So that's the current plan, but happy to expand that if folk need to hear from me more often to keep them going. So I hope you like this video, and I hope you consider joining in with me if you haven't already for the weight loss quilts. No problem joining in. It'll be January soon, so if that's when you want to start then, and we'll see you then, and that'll be great. But if you like videos like this and you want to see more, then please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought, and thanks so much for spending time with me.